It's time for Ask Your Auntie, the show that gets real with teen girls about life. They ask, and we answer with tea. Tools for excellence and achievement. The goal? To help girls make better decisions in real time. When you can't ask your mom or G-Ma, ask your auntie. Now here's your host, Marissa Terrell, Esquire.
Got questions? Ask your auntie. I'm Marissa Terrell, but you can call me Auntie M, and I'm director of the High Tea Society Foundation and the host of this podcast, Ask Your Auntie, where we provide sugars, also known as teen girls, with reliable answers to their questions. So let's meet our guest for today. Hello, Auntie Caryl, or I should say Dr. Mussenden. Welcome to Ask Your Auntie.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I'm so glad to see you. It's been a moment since I've seen you. I know that you, my former doctor, but a retired gynecologist and an obstetrician, basically a doctor for women and girls.
That's right.
Okay. So in addition to your practice, you've provided medical humanitarian assistance. Where?
Oh, yes. That's some of my favorite things to do. I was in Haiti 3 times since the earthquake many years ago, and also was in Atlanta when the storm came through and devastated Atlanta.
Katrina,
and,
right?
Yeah, with Katrina. Oh, my goodness. So, yes, and some of my favorite things.
My goodness. That's a lot of...
Yeah.
Ooh, that's heavy work, though.
Yeah, it was.
But rewarding.
Difficult. Yes, it was.
Okay.
Very rewarding.
And I know you say you've probably gotten this question a lot of times. How many babies would you say you've delivered?
I know. I wish I'd counted them, but I kind of figured it out. It's probably several thousand.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But when I hear some of the numbers that other doctors figure out, I said they must not be counting all the ones that they did. But you can't do but so many if you give really good care, right?
I think we are so lucky in the DMV area to have so many talented doctors of color.
Yes.
I feel like it probably impacts the statistics, talking about women's health and how we don't always get the best care, women of color.
Absolutely.
But we get great care in this area because we have so many talented
I think we're fortunate. I have good
Black
colleagues
doctors.
here.
It makes a huge difference. Where'd you go to med school?
Howard University.
Well, there you go. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We know all about it. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Okay. So we know that you not only went to high school, okay, but you also went through college and medical school and probably other subsequent trainings that you've had to do along the way.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you are the perfect auntie to have on this show because you have been there, seen it, done that, whatever, and you would be a great asset for our girls. But I wonder, though, whether our girls, they probably might not have heard of you. So I kind of want to learn a little bit more about you and about your high school years because our rule is, of course, you can't take directions from someone who's lost. So it's important that they know if they want to talk to you about high school, we're going to have to talk a little bit about your high school years, okay? So let's go a little bit deeper to learn, a bit more about you, okay? What's your full name?
Caryl Mussenden. Ellis. Ellis is my married name, but I always practiced under my maiden name.
All right.
So I'm Mrs. Ellis since I've retired, but people call me Dr. Mussenden still.
I will be calling you Dr. Mussenden still. Okay. All right. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Baltimore. I have a twin sister. That's all. And we were mixed race, and I was adopted when we were 4 by a family. Our father was a family practitioner who delivered babies. Back in the day, they didn't have specialties.
Okay.
So that's probably where I got the idea. I remember at 6, I wanted to become a doctor.
Wow.
God just birthed it in me.
Yeah.
And that was my goal my whole life.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. All right. So where'd you go to high school?
Went to high school at Eastern High School in Baltimore.
Okay.
And Pimlico Junior High School in Baltimore. I only did 2 years because I knew I wanted to skip grades if I could. So I did 2 years in junior high instead of 3, and then went to high school. And then I went to Penn State for college for 1 year. I was like a fish out of water.
Yeah,
and came back to Morgan.
Oh.
Did 2 years at Morgan, didn't get a degree, and went straight to med school.
How are you bumping around? because your grades and your work ethic.
I did the minimal requirements for med school.
Wow.
I did what I needed, and I was accepted. So it was good because for me, I was directed. I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I never wavered in it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so now, having done it for 45 years, I retired last year.
Woo! What is that like for someone who's been so busy?
I'm still busy. It's just doing different things. Life.
Yeah. Okay. So thinking about high school, is this a big school, co-ed school?
It was a girls' school.
All girls' school.
And I went to Eastern. The city high school was the boys' school across the street.
Oh, across the street. Perfect.
And I actually went to that school for coursework that they didn't teach in the girls' school. Some of the science courses didn't have enough to put them in. So we went, so that was fun. Mm-hmm. But I was so sheltered, and it was a different day, different age. That was 50 years ago.
Okay.
And more than 50 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have a best friend in high school?
My twin sister.
Your twin sister. You guys was just
friend. Yes.
A force. Okay. What's her name?
Chris.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, thank you for sharing some information about yourself. Is there anyone that you want to dedicate today's podcast episode to?
Yeah, when you ask me again, my mom. Okay. My mom is still here kicking. She'll be 105 in August.
Wow.
And she sacrificed a lot for me. Okay. My father died when we were 11, and she had to go to work and had never worked. And got us through. Okay. And we managed, and we never missed anything. We got to travel with her. She's just an amazing woman. Okay. And just as gracious as she wants to be.
Okay. So. And your mom's name is?
Lydia.
Okay, this is from Mama Lydia. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. All right. Let's get into some questions because we have a lot of questions I feel like that you'd be perfect to answer. I feel like that we've got to know you pretty well, and so I'm sure my sugars would agree that it's time to get into our queries for the day. So here's the first one. My boyfriend told me he has an STD. Should I still date him?
So, that's a good question, and that's very interesting to know. First of all, and we'll talk about some other things later because sex isn't everything. But if someone has an STD, you certainly shouldn't be intimate with them until you know what it is, because most STDs are contagious in some form. So you should know that first, and you should then really relook at the relationship, because if he has an STD and he's not been with you yet, that's one thing. But if he's been with you, you need to get checked out too. And many men, and sometimes the women, do not share with the partner that they have something.
Yeah.
And that's how this stuff goes down sometimes, because they look at the internet and they figure they Google it and they figure they don't need to tell them, it's not so, well, I don't have any symptoms, not realizing that if you have a virus is transmissible without symptoms.
Right.
Yes.
Right. We've learned that recently,
yes,
right?
Indeed. With COVID.
With this
that's right.
crazy COVID and some folks having no symptoms at all. Okay. Right. I mean, and so we are getting into some really kind of some heavy topics, and we kind of want to preface this a little bit, right, to kind of make sure that our sugars understand that we're answering questions that some of our girls have sent to us. That doesn't mean that these answers that we're providing are the best practice or the best way to handle some of these issues. Amen. I know growing up for me, again, a strict household, I did not really date until law school. Can you believe that?
Yes, I can.
First of all, we were so scheduled. I was exhausted. Yes. I didn't have time to go anywhere. I was at a girls' school, and I was really focused on going to law school. That's what I wanted to do. And so I took every opportunity. I was always studying, always reading, always doing some extracurricular. Did not date a lot. So all of this, information and relationships and all that I was kind of like a late bloomer.
Yes.
And as I look back and I think back to my friends who were not and who were active, looking back, I mean, what was the benefit? I don't know. I couldn't say what the benefit was for them. A lot of them were really stressed out early because they had to deal with all of these heavier issues that I eventually had to deal with, but I was a lot more mature when I did have to deal with them.
Yes.
So that's something to consider.
And it is. And you're right. And that was a different day and age, even with you. Certainly with me, because I'm significantly older than you, where, first of all, back in the day, it was taboo to talk about sex, talk about relationships, even talking about kissing somebody. I mean, it really was taboo.
Yeah.
Now, I think, unfortunately, the focus in relationships between males and females or any sexual relationships is not generally a relationship that's thought out first. I think before you get into relationships with anyone, you need to consider who you are. And what is your goal in life? What do you plan on doing with your own life? And what if you get into a relationship and you don't think about it and you get pregnant? What's going to happen with that? If you get pregnant and nowadays, you don't even have a choice really much about abortion if you get pregnant, if that is a choice for you. But it's probably being taken away. Women's rights are being taken away. So you don't have the choices that you used to have either.
And the supportive systems and places where you can go.
That's exactly right. Exactly. And I think that all people should consider a relationship. Why are you in this relationship? Are you in this relationship to have sex? Because so many young people that I talk to in my office, sex is just assumed to be part of the relationship. It's assumed. And you have to set your boundaries. And you have to say, well, I'm not going to be having sex. Let's just be friends. You know, you can be friends and not be sexually active, but you have to know what your parameters are. Because if you're sitting on the fence, you can fall one way or the other.
That's right. That's right. Especially when you add to it some sort of substance. If your boyfriend's smoking a lot, weed, and always offering it to you, or there's alcohol, you start to ask, why every time I'm out with this person are they trying to give me something to take? Because they're typically trying to get your inhibitions down a little bit so that you'll be more likely to do something that you might not want, maybe not be as likely to do otherwise. These are all the things you have to kind of think about.
Absolutely.
I know that we sort of, a lot of growing up, we talked about chess a lot and how your life, you kind of want to think about every decision you make. You try to think a couple steps ahead. So if I'm going to start sleeping with my boyfriend, what happens? You know, is it possible that I could get sick? Is it possible I could get pregnant? Is this a person that I could count on that's going to help me in either of those circumstances? If not, then maybe this is not the right situation. Okay.
Exactly.
You got to think about it. And that's part of what we hope to communicate in this podcast is that, you know, you're growing up. You got decisions to make almost every day, all day, multiple times a day. Some of these decisions really do affect your life, your trajectory.
Absolutely.
So you're in control of these things. You've got to pause and think. Okay.
Yeah. And we need to look at valuing our bodies. For women who are Christians, they know the value, they ought to know that valuing your body means you don't fornicate. Like you don't have sex if you're not married. Okay, and some people would listen to this. Some of the young people, oh, she's square. You know, what is wrong with that?
What does that mean?
You know, well, what I say to anybody who questions that, especially if you're a Christian, that you don't get to pick and choose what you accept in the Bible. If you profess to be a Christian and are, then you accept what's in it. Okay, so that's something you have to think about. You really do. Now, for those people who that is not an issue for them, you still have to think about the value of your body, how important it is to you. One of the questions I remember that we were talking about is men policing your bodies.
Yes, that's the question. Yes.
So, yes, that's very important because now I get it. Because men will tell women how they want you to dress. So you see these women coming out with dresses that are way too tight, way too short, way too sexual, you know. And what I have this lovely granddaughter, she's beautiful, and told her, I said, girl, you're beautiful as you are. You don't need to dress in a certain way to reveal what you have. You know, not that she does, but you don't have to. Right. Don't think about it. Right. But women tend to think, they look over there and they think, oh, she's really popular and look how she dresses and I'm going to dress like that. I'm going to do the fingernails and I'm going to do the long lashes and I'm going to do the low dresses and I'm going to have my butt exposed. Yes. You know, all these kinds of
right.
things. And they think will attract people. But what I say, like even to my granddaughter, you got natural beauty. You can stand out without having to try to get like everybody else, the run of the mill. And that's the policing of women's bodies. That's how men want them to look. And let me tell you, pornography in young people is rampant. Yeah. In the men, I had a conversation with this about, yes, rampant. And what they do is they look at pornography and then they want their women, with their women looking the same way.
Okay.
And that's where it comes from. That's why that is so rampant. If you look at even now between when you finish school and how young girls look now, it's a different ballgame.
It is different. It's different.
And it's not good.
Yeah. It's different. It's like a different standard.
Yes, it is.
A different standard of beauty. But it's one that it's not always as comfortable for us. We know, yes. And you also can tell because of the way the guys react. They may visually like this, but what tends to happen is they tend to then want to treat you in the same manner as this kind of fantasy that they have.
Yes.
And that's when it becomes dangerous, problematic.
Yes.
Okay, sort of takes you out of character.
Right.
I loved what you said about Christian. One thing that I will say about that, because I do consider myself to be a Christian. I'm trying to maintain this standard.
We got to fight every day.
The best
right?
I can every day.
Yes.
It's not easy.
No.
But I know the one thing that I keep in mind is that, Jesus talked about, or God, talked about Jesus talked about giving us this spirit, right? The Holy Spirit that's going to assist us every day to make better decisions. But what we know is that the Spirit thrives in a positive environment, an environment that is conducive to God. And we need that Spirit to help us.
Yes.
But when you start to make decisions that go against God, that Spirit gets quieter and quieter, sometimes to the point where you can barely hear it.
Yes.
Right?
That's
so you got to be careful about the decisions you make so you don't want to get outside of this protective bubble that you have.
Yes.
Okay, we're about to start preaching in here today.
Amen.
But this is really important. Okay, so let's get back to this question, although we have been continuing to answer all along. Here's another one. I'm the only virgin in my group, and I'm tired of my friends laughing at me. What should I do about it? I got a feeling that she's about to make a decision maybe that might not be her true self.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes. First of all, young women, I tell you now, do not discuss your sexual activity with your girlfriends.
Oh. Yes, say it again.
Do not discuss it. If they ask you, well, are you getting some? Well, that's none of your business. That's what you can say to me. That's none of your business whether I am or not. I wouldn't tell you.
Right.
That's all you need to say.
Because telling them is what? Telling everybody.
It will be broadcast. And this is why, and I'm sorry that you are in this situation, and I know there are probably other women, other young girls in the same situation. And hopefully you will keep it, it's peace, be still. Do not divulge your personal information. Women are some of the biggest gossipers. And I'm telling you, any of you getting ready to go to college, do not discuss your business with people because it will be all over the campus.
Yeah.
And so the main thing is to not discuss it. Now, the second thing is for virginal women who have divulged and people are talking about, tell them, well, that's okay. Anybody can have sex. I'm waiting to find somebody who's worth it.
Right.
Great
answer. Yes.
I don't want any of this riffraff out here. Really.
Yeah.
And then they ask questions about finding out that guys have other girls. Well, to me, would be a game changer. Why would you try to hold on to somebody who's in relationship with someone else, an intimate relationship with someone else, and you may be intimate with? Remember that whoever your boyfriends sleep with, especially if they don't want you using condoms and they don't use condoms, you are sleeping with every woman that they have slept with, everyone. So viruses stay in your body forever. They're always there.
Yes.
So you hear about the herpes virus, hear about the HIV virus. Oh, but so-and-so took a medication and he doesn't have HIV anymore. Let me tell you, the virus is suppressed to a low, when you're on medication, the virus, like the HIV virus, it is suppressed or kept quiet so that it can't be detected through the blood work. That does not mean the virus is not in the body. It is still there. Does it decrease transmission of the virus? Yes, but it is certainly not 100%. Wow. So you can get any virus, and the viruses are herpes, HIV, chlamydia and gonorrhea can be treated. They are not viruses. But you can also get the HPV virus. The HPV virus can cause cervical cancer.
Right.
So, and that is rampant. Within the last 5 years of my practice, I noticed an increase in the women who were young, in their teenage years, coming up positive with the HPV virus like never before. You cannot get cured of the viruses. And the HPV virus strains that cause cervical cancer will always be there. Always. So you could develop cervical cancer. I saw more women, young women, that I had to perform a microscopic exam on their cervix to remove tissue that was precancerous and some early cancer in the cervix. The cervix is the mouth of the uterus that opens up so that you can deliver a baby. And if you lose your uterus, you can't have children.
Right.
If you get pelvic inflammatory disease from these infections like gonorrhea and syphilis and chlamydia, if you get pelvic infections, it can scar your tubes and ovaries so you can't get pregnant when you want to have children, when you choose to. So there are devastating effects to having sex, certainly unprotected. And condoms are not 100%. They don't guarantee, because the small pores that are in the condoms that allow the penis to breathe, if there were no pores, it would kind of strangulate the penis. But the little pores are bigger than the virus particles and can go through
it.
Condoms. So to think that that's going to protect you 100%, nope, not at all. And so you need to think before you're going out here, and think about protecting your future for children, if you desire children, to have a family, really.
It's true. You've actually answered a lot of questions in what you were saying, because we had another question about, so I think my boyfriend doesn't want to use a condom, what should I do? You sort of answered that, but really more importantly is that even if you do use that type of protection, you still are at risk.
That's exactly right. And if there's any boy who's pressuring you to have sex with him and you're interested, and hopefully it would be somebody who's of significance to you, but if you're interested, decline. Tell him you don't want to be getting anything that he possibly carries in his body. And viruses, except for the HIV virus, the viruses cannot really be detected in men like they can in us. It's not a blood test.
What?
No. HIV can be detected by blood. Syphilis can, but that's an STD, but it's not a virus. It's a spirochete, so it's a different organism. But you cannot detect it. When my young women come in and they have HPV, they just say, well, can't they check him for HPV? No, unless he develops warts on his penis, which indicates that he does have the HPV virus, which is actually a different strain than the HPV virus that causes cervical cancer. You cannot detect it in men.
So again, it's up to us to protect ourselves. We talk a lot about what self-love is.
Yes.
What does it mean to love yourself and to put yourself on a pedestal?
Yes,
right?
exactly.
It means that your behavior should reflect that you want to protect yourself at all costs. That before you think about him and what he wants, you're thinking about, well, what do I want?
Yes.
What do I want to do with my life?
Yes.
Because once you interject that into your life, into your life's decisions, it sometimes can switch your trajectory. All of a sudden, you're on a different path.
Yes.
And we know that
Very
as
good.
women, we can navigate a lot of paths. I mean, God is good, right? He does help and support us no matter what happens.
Yes.
But he also wants us to use our brains.
That's why he gives us our wisdom.
He gives us wisdom. We can ask for wisdom.
Yes.
And he gives us wisdom. He gives us a mind to analyze and to be critical about our decisions.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
And one other thing that just came to me as you were speaking, if you tell a person you don't want to have sex, you don't want to get an STD, and they want to encourage you to perform oral sex on them, guess what?
Same thing.
The same thing. The HPV virus is a virus that causes warts, and you can get warts in your throat.
Wow.
Yeah, it can be transmitted. So there are oral warts that people get. Some can become cancerous. We think that could be one of the potential risks to laryngeal or throat cancer, and it may be related to that. And I actually lost a 33-year-old patient to vaginal cancer because she had the high-risk HPV virus. She didn't have any abnormal pap smears, but she came in because she was having bleeding after intercourse with her husband. And when I looked, she had I didn't know it then until I biopsied it. Oh, but it was a cancer the size of a spoon on the back wall of the vagina.
My gosh.
And sure enough, it tested out for the HPV 16-18 virus. And she died within 6 months of being diagnosed.
That is so sad.
Yes.
What I find to be so difficult with our young people, and it just, even with all women, really, is this conflicting messages that you're getting from media, from music, from television and film. This idea that love conquers all, this idea that you can have multiple partners with no fallout, that you can exist in this sort of easy breezy world where there's no consequences.
Yes.
It really bothers me that they have all these shows like Sex and the City or Harlem or some of the newer ones that come out. They seem like every generation there's a new version of this story. Young girl comes of age. The best way that she could decide to show that she's of age is to sleep around with a bunch of different random people and to write about her experiences some kind of way. But there's a fallout. There's a fallout if you're living like the lifestyle that is espoused in like a Cardi B song or a Megan Thee Stallion song.
That's exactly right. And what you see what they put on in the news about the movie stars, the people who what's happening to them. And the relationships. And they put out in the news, so-and-so and so-and-so had a baby, and they've been together for 6 months, and they're going to raise it together, and the next thing you know, they're split.
Yes.
So then there's this kid in the mix, and then the child is coming up in a single-parented home, and it just perpetuates the same thing. Yeah. I think really when in thinking about that, as you talked about how things are going as far as the shows, the Sex and the City and all those, I think this is the same kind of thing. It parallels what I started to see in my practice as I was getting ready to retire within the last 5 years. The increased risk of seeing these diseases in the younger people. So that's only going to get worse too.
Right.
And the strains of the HPV and probably other viruses haven't even been found yet.
Wow. Heavy conversation today, but very timely. And I hope that this is, that you sugars out here, you're hearing us. Last question before we run out of time. My best friend is pregnant, but she still smokes and drinks. Okay. Is this a good idea?
Well, it's not a good idea, but I'll tell you the truth. Back in the day, when we were being birthed, and especially me, people drank.
Did they really?
Yes, they did, and they smoked, and we turned out okay, right? But the thing is this: it really isn't. It has been shown now that it can have devastating effects, and especially when you're talking about not just cigarettes, but the drugs. Yeah. So those are the things people should stop. And it's fine to not even drink during pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
It's been great.
Thank you, AunTea Dr. Caryl, for sharing your tea with us.
Yes.
Growing up in D.C. is hard, but sugar, you don't have to do it alone.
Yes.
Join us every week for reliable answers to your questions. I'm Auntie M, Director of the High Tea Society, and you can contact us via Instagram at High Tea Society INC, or by email at hello@highteasociety.org. You know we're spelling high tea as HIGHTEA. And if you want to donate, text Purple Tea, one word, to 44321, and you can send us any amount that you like. We have the tea to help girls succeed, tools for excellence and achievement. Bye.
You've been listening to Ask Your Auntie with your host, Marisa Terrell, Esquire. The transition from girlhood to womanhood can be difficult without guidance. We have the tea to help girls succeed. When you can't ask your mom or G-Ma, ask your auntie.